from my husband also. And obviously we all know what is the topic today, but I would just like to tell it with a very famous Hindi movie dialogue that says, आज मेरे पास सब कुछ है, बैंक बैलेंस है, प्रॉपर्टी है, सब कुछ है और तुम्हारे पास क्या है? And the other actor says, मेरे पास माँ है. So it's a beauty to have a mother, and being a mother, as I stand here, is also a very wonderful journey. Believe me, I'm not standing here because I'm a perfect mother. You can check with my girls, the monster mom that I am at some days. But we are family and we learn and share each other's experiences. And I stand here thanking God for this opportunity that He has given me. As women in life, we go through multiple roles. And among all of these roles that we play in our life, the relationship with our child is mostly the longest one that we have on earth. Because it starts from the day we have conceived our baby and it goes all the way till our last breath on earth. So the journey is a long one. And this morning, I would like to take you through the journey of motherhood and correlate them with examples of mothers that we find in the Bible and a few practical applications for today's times. But before I get into that, I would just like to define or understand who is a mother. And when I say this, it does not mean that a mother should have all of these qualities, but we can definitely relate to a few in this. A mother, when this question is asked, who is a mother? The first image that pops up to our mind is always of our own mother, or the image of a mother feeding her baby, holding her baby, playing with her baby. The images are in many. A mother's love for her child is forever. You have your baby on earth or you have lost your baby. As far as a mother is concerned, she always had all her children on her mind. A friend of mine always says, 5 children, 2 on earth and 3 in heaven, because she lost 3 in miscarriages, but in her mind is always there. A mother is someone who, even in a huge crowd, you will know when she hears the baby cry, the only head that will turn around would be of the mother. She can know the sound of her baby crying. When I say about mothers, I do not negate the role of fathers in bringing up their children. I lost my only sister when she was just 38 years old, and she left behind a 14-year-old teenager to be raised by the father. And my brother-in-law has been raising her up since then. So fathers, equally important as mothers are. A mother is somebody who, even in grief, she will not forget to support and comfort her other children who need her. A mother is someone whom a child will love from birth, because that is the default setting given by the Creator. We love our mothers from birth, but we realize their value and we understand their importance only as we grow up and at a very later stage in our life. As mothers, we should also focus on all the areas of our child's growth: physical, intellectual, emotional, financial, and even spiritual. Do we need to give birth to feel for another child? Definitely no. We have seen Mother Teresa as a very beautiful example. She has surpassed it, and she has set an example that we can love and care for as many as we can. We don't need to really give birth. The theme of our church is also I Disciple. Let us consciously take care and concern and be there for the ones whom the church has entrusted to us too. I would like to categorize motherhood into 5 different stages, which, as I was preparing, I realized we would either be in one of these stages or we will be in one of these stages in the coming days or years. The first stage is we are a young mother. You have infants, you have toddlers, preschoolers, primary kids, you are all in this phase. The Bible talks about a very beautiful young mother, and she is Jochebed, the mother of baby Moses, mentioned in Exodus chapter 2. She was a young mother and she had 2 other children to take care. She gave birth to Moses at a time of unrest in Egypt. Sensing trouble for her newborn, she used wisdom to keep her child safe. What did she do? She raised a support system to bring up her child. She used her daughter, Miriam. She even used the king's daughter to ensure that her son was raised up well. How do I make this application practical in today's times? I am a young mother. The main point I want to focus here is, mothers at this stage, you must raise a support system. We need it, and you should raise a support system. A young mother's body is weak after the delivery. Not every one of us can look radiant like Kate Middleton. We all know it. She came out extremely radiant after the 3rd baby, and I'm sure all the women's group was discussing how did she look this way. Well, we are all not privileged like the Duchess of Cambridge, so we raise our own support system for this. Most of us also, we should, like Jochebed, use our wisdom. How do I raise the support system that I need to bring my baby? The best support system, no doubt, is your spouse, is the father of the baby. That's the best support system. When we had, I will also give a disclaimer, I will use a lot of examples from my personal life, so please bear with me as I do that too. When I had my first baby, I was also detected with a slip disc issue. And the doctor very clearly told me that I know it is your baby, but you cannot lift your baby. Your back cannot afford that you carry 7 and 8 kgs. It was very heartbreaking as a mother not being able to lift my child. And the most beautiful support was my husband at that time. We were, at that time, he was studying in Bangalore, in SAGS, and there is a rule in this college that you cannot have guests because they are very focused. You have come here for studies, so you study. You can only have a weekend guest, but you cannot have people stay with you. And he was my most beautiful support. He would daily bathe the baby, he would feed the baby, and those who know him know he is very meticulous. Yes. So he will keep all the things that he thinks the baby and I might need it, the toys, the clothes, it will all be arranged so that I don't have to bend down. It was a great support for me. Wow. And the bonding also goes a long way. Today my daughter is 16 years old, and let me tell you, the father-daughter bonding, I can still see that. It goes a long way. Fathers can also help. When you look around the house, there are a lot of things that you can do, and we should do it because the baby is ours, the house is ours, the wife is also ours. So you have to raise a support system when you need it. You can use your parents. Grandparents are a lovely support system that you can take. You can use your trusted relatives and cousins that you can have, or a maid or help, anybody. But always remember one thing, that the child is ours. Do not outsource your baby completely to the support system. We as parents, the Lord has given the child to us, and we should raise up our baby. Even Jochebed did that. She ensured that Moses was taken care of well. She did that. We know that. As mothers, we can focus, like I said, we can focus on a lot of areas of their growth. In Luke chapter 2, verse 14, the Bible says, "And the child grew and became strong. He was filled with wisdom, and the grace of God was on him." This is a phase where mothers usually tend to spend a lot of time with your children, because if you are not working, you are anyway with your child, And if you are working, then you await maternity leaves and years, and a lot of things are clubbed together. And we should invest a lot into our children at this time. You have to, but do not do helicopter parenting. I hope you know what is that. You are like the fan of the helicopter. All the time you are around. The minute the fan stops, the machine stops. So you don't be that kind of a mother. Or a ransom mother, where the child decides, should my mother stand or sit or eat or drink? Even that kind of parenting is not good. You have to take care of your baby and invest in the right kind of wisdom that we can give to them. We were in for a total shock when our elder daughter went to her play school. We know the play school age that it is. And I get a call from her teacher once, and she asked me, is everything okay in your house? I said, yeah, why? She said, no, your daughter has expressed concern that the father and mother are not talking to each other. So the play school age, it was true actually. We both had a small argument and we didn't talk for 4 or 5 days. Who was watching us, we thought. But our little one sensed the gloom in the house and she went and told it to her teacher. So I realized that we are not investing in the right kind into our child. Or my younger daughter, who picked up a slang word that I used to use very often. She walked out of the room in the same way that I would walk off. She used the word at her elder sister and she barged out. And I was like, there goes Junior Glory. And I could see that. And I stopped using that word that day. So let us put in the right kind of wisdom into our children, not the wrong types. This is also an age where mothers who are young, we don't get much time to spend with the Lord. We don't get much time to pray or read the word, and their mothers go through a lot of guilt at this time. I urge mothers not to have this kind of a guilt, because if there is anyone who knows your heart's desire, it is the Lord Himself. So this time, raise your own support. Plug into the internet, listen to the songs, listen to the messages. If you can't make it to your cell groups and churches, just plug into the right kind of support and recharge yourself. After you're a mother, a young mother, you come to the next phase. You are a mother of a tween and a teen. Not yet a teenager, on the verge of being a teenager, or you are a mother of a teenager. The Bible has 2 beautiful examples here. It talks about Hannah, a mother, a child, Samuel, born out of intense prayer. We all know that. And the Bible talks about Samuel, that the boy continued to grow in stature and in favor with the Lord and with men. And the same verse talks about Jesus also. In Luke chapter 2 verse 52, and Jesus grew in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and men. Hannah and Mary are mothers of 2 different historical periods, but raised up their sons in such wonderful ways that they both found the favor of God and men. Our children also should be raised in such wonderful ways that they have the favor of God and men. Our children need it. How do I make this application practical today? The main point that I want to focus here is be persistent in shaping them. Mothers of teenagers or tweens, this is the most difficult stage of parenting. I am at this phase right now because we as mothers, we suddenly become very overprotective. You are trying to protect your child from the songs of this age or the infatuations that they have. You want to protect them from the romances, or they are all the time into the looks and all of these, and you are trying to, it is a tug of war kind of a situation. And your child is screaming, give me freedom. That is what they are screaming. So it is a very challenging phase here. And the point that we have to understand here is we have to know the times that our children are growing up in. We should not be ignorant of this fact. It is a very challenging time, that our children are growing up in. I'm not talking just in terms of studies. We know it. There is a lot of healthy and unhealthy competition. There is a lot of insecurity in the minds of today's teenagers. We read of revengeful minds. We read it in the paper. Pornography is a very big issue our teenagers and tweens struggle with. There is social media and the challenges of being all the time updated on social media. Not just updated, nowadays even getting trolled is in fashion. And the list is long. Our children are living very difficult lives. But we have to raise our children together. As parents, we have to be united in raising our children. My father worked in the Gulf for a very long time. And one thing that we always knew was, even though distance separated them, they were very united in raising us up. I'm talking about the times when you have letters and telephone calls. And there are times after 2 and 3 weeks, we have got the disciplinary letter from our father. We would have even forgotten it, but then we're like, oh, so it has reached there, and then comes the discipline. But we always knew it, that they were united when it came to raising us up. Small decisions or big decisions, stay united with your spouse when you are raising your children up. They should see that the father and mother are alive. They should see that the father and mother take decisions together when it comes regarding us. Otherwise, our children will have it easy. If they know who is the softer parent, then they know where to get their things done. So stay united as you bring up your children. This is an age where, as mothers, we will also compare our children with other kids. Believe me, a lot happens. We try not to, but honestly it does happen. The best example, if you want to compare your child with, is look at Jesus. Because when we do that, they tell, oh, your example they do. Because Jesus was very good, so don't give that example. That's the only time they like to be compared with anybody else. So why do you need another example when we have the best to look at? You want to compare your child, always ask, what would Jesus do? And that's how we leave it to them. We leave it as a challenge to them. This is also the time where we start sowing the seeds of faith, of prayer, and right living. You have to start doing that. Deuteronomy chapter 11, verse 19 says, teach them to your children, talking about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. All the time we have to persistently do it for our children, and we have to make it even for the boys and the girls. I remember reading an article by Chetan Bhagat. Recently it was there all on social media. He was talking especially along the lines of Indian parenting. And the line that he used was, we are ready to send our girls to the moon, but our boys cannot even make a cup of tea. So make it even for raising up children, for your boys and your girls. Household chores, everyone should be taught to do it. Reading the Bible, praying, singing songs, whatever it is, everyone should do it. In our house each one takes turn to do one. So there is no excuse, I can't do it or I'm not good at it. Everyone has to do it. This is also the age where your children are not just observing you, they are also very vocal about what they feel, what they see. Their emotional quotient, as parents you will see, as mothers you will see, that is what will come out stronger. And we should as mothers give them an open atmosphere to talk about their challenges, not just good, bad, everything. We should give an open atmosphere. There are days in our house, our open atmosphere turns into a war zone. There is no doubt about it. But we have to teach our children to stop, and also teach them when do you respect, to stop at a certain point. They only learn it over a period of time, because the Bible says, honor your father and your mother, and it will go well with you. So we just teach them that, and we leave it at that. As mothers, we have to be persistent in shaping and molding them. Even if there are disagreements and arguments, there are days we don't want to discipline them anymore. We just get tired and we just say, I'm not going to do it anymore. But I always remind myself that I'm not a perfect person either. There are days I rebel, there are days I disobey, there are days I want to justify why I disobey. But Jesus hasn't stopped working in me. He is still continuing in me. And as a mother, I should be persistent in shaping and molding my children. Once your child becomes big, then you are a mother of a young adult. We have Rebecca in the Bible in Genesis chapter 27. It talks about her. She allowed her son to deceive her spouse. She allowed her son to deceive the other sibling. Sometimes we mothers are this way. We just take charge of the situation and we keep the father totally uninformed of what is happening in our child's life. Even that is not a healthy practice. And we can see the repercussions that Jacob had to go through because of that one deceit. There is no doubt that God, in His sovereign plan, changed it around for Jacob. But we also should see the challenges and the hardships that Jacob had to go through because of that one deceit. What do I do as a mother of a young adult? The main point I want to tell here is teach them life skills as a mother of a young adult. When I say life skills, this is the age where they need to start practicing all that you have taught them, because most of them would be out of their houses by this time. Either they are finishing their studies or they are on their verge of getting a job. They will be on their own. One verse that we were always taught as we became 18 and so on was Colossians 3 verse 23, which says, whatever you do, work at it wholeheartedly, as though you were doing it for the Lord and not merely for people. That is one verse that was always taught to us as a young adult. As a mother of a young adult, she always taught me and my sister to stay in touch with each other. She said, you are siblings, you should be united, you should always be in love with each other, because parents will go away eventually. And you have to continue to check on each other, be sensitive to each other's needs. The list was long. And me and my sister, we were very close to each other till she left us. We used to speak at least 5 times a day. We would not speak so much to our mother, but we were very close to each other. And the only thing that she asked me before she left me was, take care of my daughter. That's the only thing I want from you, she told. I said, of course I will. She said, I know you will, but the confidence that even if I go, my sibling will take care. And we say today that we have 5 children. We have always started praying that way. And I have one from my side and I have 2 sons from my husband's brother. So we always say 5 children, and we just pray for our siblings' kids in the order they were born. We didn't change the order because our children came in between. Love your children and your siblings' children as your own. Jacob and Esau took a long time to get united. As mothers, we can sense if our children are not united. I say mothers should take efforts to keep your children united. As a young adult, you start working. When I was 18 years old, I told my mother, I was studying at that time, I told her, I'm not happy with the pocket money that you give me. I need more pocket money. She said, if you are eligible to vote, it means you are eligible to work. Go find your own part-time job and raise your own pocket money. And I did that. I worked for 2 years and I used to make 1,800 rupees each month. That was a lot of money at that time because it was part-time job and it was pocket money. I didn't have to run a house, so it was a lot of money. Just when I wanted to bask in the glory of making my own money, she taught us to tithe and to give generously. tithing is not only for fathers and mothers, she told. And we were taught to tithe from 15 and 20%. Believe me, it was so painful to give away so much. You know, you are working with another intention, and your mother makes you give tithe and to give generously. But that was a very important life lesson that we learned. And the extent of the generosity we did see on the day of my sister's funeral. There were so many people for her funeral that the church father asked my brother-in-law, what was she made up of? Because I want to teach the church to be like her. So many people only come for Easter and Christmas and not for funerals. So that was something that we knew she was a generous soul, and we heard so many testimonies that day. She helped us with this, she gave us that, and so many things. Even in that much pain and grief, we could not stop rejoicing and giving glory to the Father in heaven for the wonderful lesson that was taught to us, and that was practiced way beyond what we ever knew it. She also taught us as a young mother, as a mother of a young adult, she taught us to pray for your offices, pray for your organizations. We wondered what is there to pray. She said, pray that your company will grow. Let it become big. Let business come into your company and you will reap the fruits of it. We definitely know it. When the bonus check comes, we know our company has done well. We know it. So she would always say, you can also reap the fruits of it. If your boss doesn't allow you, you can be assured that God will bless you. So it is a win-win situation. So pray for your company and your organizations. As a mother of a young adult, I also would always teach your sons to love, cherish and respect their wives. They are not married, but you start teaching them that. And the same way the daughters were taught to love, respect and submit to your husband. We were always taught that. We were not married, nothing, but it was taught even before we got married. So when we got married, we knew it. This has to be the order. You love God and then you love your spouse. You respect and you submit. That we knew it because we were taught before. The first three phases of our life will naturally come to us because it is directly linked with the mother and the child. The next phase is that of a mother-in-law. You will be a mother-in-law someday. This phase requires us to take efforts because this is not about your child, it is about your child's spouse. So it is about somebody else's child. The Bible talks about Naomi, a woman who lost her husband. She was a widow. She had no sons. Both her sons had also gone away. The only relationship that was left for her was that with her daughter-in-laws. But what a beautiful testimony was she, that even when she told her daughter-in-laws to go away, one of them said, your people will be my people and your God, my God. Definitely, she has been a wonderful example for one daughter-in-law to say that. How do I make this point applicable in today's times? I say, be a delight to your family. That is the best thing. Titus 2 verse 3 and 4 says, teach the older women to be reverent in the way they live, to teach what is good. Then they can urge the younger women to love their husbands and children. Older women to teach the younger women. And the older women teach it with your life first. We have wonderful mother-in-laws in our church too. If you talk to them, you know their genuine love for their son-in-laws and for their daughter-in-laws. We have to take efforts. And how do we do that? If we are able to understand that my son-in-law or my daughter-in-law is very important for my child, then we will start respecting. In our house, we were always taught that every upbringing has to be respected, irrespective of which caste, culture, background, financial status, nothing mattered, because every parent goes through a struggle to bring up their child. And that is why our family has a lot of son-in-laws and daughter-in-laws from different backgrounds. And we love everybody, every son-in-law and daughter-in-law is loved a lot. And I see that even in my own house, my mother has even surpassed this for me. She has set an example for me. I see how my husband is loved and respected in my house. And I also see how my sister's husband is, even today, loved and respected in our house. We haven't forgotten him, and they haven't forgotten him either. And they always bless my husband on his birthdays and anniversaries. We have been married for 19 years. I don't know if she has ever missed wishing the son-in-law. Even if he's not home, I'll tell it's okay, I'll pass a message. She says, I'll call him. Because anniversary belongs to both your child and your son-in-law or daughter-in-law. So they will always wish and bless. You have to take efforts to love somebody else's child. It will not come naturally, so you have to take efforts. A friend of mine, I remember once on one Father's Day, called her father-in-law. It happened right in front of me 2 years back. She called her father-in-law and she thanked him for the wonderful son that he has raised up. And she said, I'm so grateful to you for your wonderful upbringing, because I'm enjoying my family life because of your good upbringing. Thank you so much. She called her father-in-law. And we know how important for a girl her father is. But if she has to acknowledge her father-in-law, we as daughters definitely know that has been a wonderful upbringing. And what a delight. I could hear the father-in-law on the other side laugh on the phone because he wasn't expecting it, but he was so thrilled and delighted. Today, as on Mother's Day, I'm not saying if you don't get a call, you are not good, but wouldn't it be a delight for you if your son-in-law or daughter-in-law remembered you today and said, thank you so much, I'm so glad that I'm part of your family and you have loved me so much. We have to be a delight to our family. I was thinking I have time to come for this phase because I'm still in the mother zone and sitting comfortably there when all the three daughters very clearly told me our spouses should be loved and respected the way our father is loved and respected in your house. And I told my mother, you have already put me in trouble because you have set an example that it's not just me, even my generation has taken note of it and they have made it very vocal. Honestly, I called my co-sister and I told her, you know what, let's start praying about this phase. We are mothers, but let us also work towards being good mother-in-laws. And obviously, we know when you are a mother and a mother-in-law, your next desire is usually in the final stage, you want to be a grandmother. The Bible talks about Timothy's grandmother. The verse is 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 5 says, I call to remembrance the genuine faith that is in you, which dwelt first in your grandmother Louis and your mother Eunice, and I'm persuaded it's in you also. How do I make this practical today? I say we have to pass on a good legacy for our grandchildren. How do I make this practical? We are no more in the times of joint families. We are all a nuclear family now. If you get to see your grandchildren even once a year, that is a great thing. As time goes by, you won't once a year, twice a year, it becomes, the distance will only separate it. But Deuteronomy chapter 4 verse 9 says, be careful and watch yourselves closely so that you do not forget the things your eyes have seen or let them fade from your heart as long as you live. Teach them to your children and to their children after them. How do I teach this to my grandchildren if I'm not in touch with them? How do I make this practical? My grandchildren are not with me. They are studying somewhere else or they are living in another country. They are not with me. As grandparents, I always tell my mother, you be the grandmother, you don't mother her. I am there for the girls. You be the grandmother. You have a grander purpose, so you be there. And she has so willingly accepted and allowed me to mother my children. And she always stands by me, and she will encourage me and support me. We can do that, not just for daughters, even your daughter-in-laws who's raising up your next generation. That is your generation that is coming up. So you stand by them and you encourage them as they bring up their grandchildren. As grandparents, we have to learn to treat our grandchildren alike. Gone are the days where you have 10 and 15 grandchildren and you pick up a few grandsons whom you like more and you ignore a few granddaughters. Nowadays, if you have 2 and 3 also, it is a great blessing. I know of an auntie who so much wants to be a grandmother, but her children just want to enjoy life and they don't want to have grandchildren. And I heard recently she's told her children, I will deposit 5 lakh rupees to my child who gives the first grandchild. So now the children are wondering, what do we do? Because your savings will start from 5 lakhs for your child. So we are coming to such difficult times that if you have 1 and 2 grandchildren, we need to cherish and we need to enjoy even the phase of being a grandparent. My grandfather taught me to play tennis. Not that I play tennis, but I just sometimes watch the game because I just randomly miss him at times. In our house, we play Uno and Scrabble and all of these things. We are trying to figure out which generation is smarter. You have to stay connected with your grandchildren. My mother came on WhatsApp mainly to stay connected with these 3 granddaughters. And she does send them videos from the Bible sometimes. Sometimes she will give them beauty tips. Don't use this and don't use that. And some recently also some self-defense video. She will send that because there are 3 granddaughters. So stay in touch with your grandchildren, and only then, when you are in touch with them and when you are connected to them, then they want to hear your stories, then they want to hear your life experiences. Otherwise, they will not want to even listen to what you want to say. So stay connected with your grandchildren, bless them, pray for them. That we all know, all grandmothers will happily do it, but check on them, asking them how are they doing, how is their studies, is there any subject that is tough for you. There are days when the exam timetable comes, the first call goes to my mother. These are the exam dates, please pray for us. They know it, she will do it. I know my great-grandma lived a very long life. She lived 104 years old and she saw 5 generations. And every generation we knew, morning 4 o'clock, she starts praying for her generations. And it used to be till 7 o'clock because we are 5 generations. She knew all of us by names. She knew the spouses, the grandchildren, everybody, she knew them by their name. And we have heard it. The joy when you hear your grandmother or your great-grandmother praying for you is beyond words. I have experienced it. And even today I talk to my children. You have to pass the stories to your generations. Let them taste and let them see what a faithful God He is. He leads generations. These are the various 5 stages and traits of motherhood that we will come through in our life journey. And we can ask ourselves, what kind of a mother am I? Am I a Joshebed? Do I use timely wisdom and raise a support for my bringing up my child? Am I a Hannah, a praying mother? Everybody loves to be a praying mother, but Hannah was also a mother who kept her promise that she made to the Lord. Am I, Jesus' mother Mary, who was willing to go through the challenges so that her child's purpose to come on earth would be fulfilled? Am I that kind of a mother? Am I like Rebecca? Will I show partiality and keep my children separate, or will I work towards keeping the siblings united? Am I a Naomi? Will I take care of my son-in-laws and daughter-in-laws, or will I just snap ties off? Or am I a Louis? Will I pass this faith of mine to my next generations? This is the question we have to ask ourselves. What is the legacy that I am going to leave behind when I go from this earth? I say, if you have had great, wonderful mothers and grandmothers as examples, we should faithfully pass the baton forward. And if we think not so a great example, we should be the starting point of a great legacy. We should be, and let us consciously as mothers work towards it. I will close with a very beautiful quote by Reverend Dr. Billy Graham that says, "The greatest legacy one can pass on to one's children and grandchildren is not money or other material things accumulated in one's life, but rather a legacy of character and faith." Character and faith are the legacies that we can leave for our children and our grandchildren. Our inheritance can only help them, but it will not sustain them in their life journey. Let us work together to make a beautiful legacy. May you be blessed with this.
When I asked Glory to share on Mother's Day, she was very, very hesitant and prayed over the days, and she replied to me that I will take up the challenge. Now we found that this morning we were really blessed. It's so refreshing. It's really, really so refreshing. She's such a great communicator. And also each point that was explained with her own life, and she's so vulnerable to share her own struggles and life journey. I think that's so beautiful. I don't know from where she learned this homiletics, that's the preaching techniques. She's applied everything that some of us could not apply. Every point and the way she transitioned from one point to another, the conclusion, the application in each point. I mean, you have it 100%. Let's give her